My name is Chet Valiente, and I am the publisher and chief operating officer of the Hour Publishing Company, including the Hour, the Stamford Times, and the Wilton Villager, along with our associated websites and digital products. But it's really my distinct pleasure to be here as the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. And in that capacity, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you and thank you for being here today. You know, this State of the City annual address has always held great interest among our members, and today will be no exception to that. So, Mr. Mayor, while you're looking over your notes, let me just say, just quickly and without stealing any of your thunder, that even though we have this lingering, challenging economic times, Stamford is still recognized on a statewide basis and also really even nationally as a strong business center. And so we want you to know that the Stamford business community stands ready to assist you. We look forward to working with you in your office, in particular to help ensure that your efforts are continued in making our city a fiscally strong marketplace. So it's now my pleasure to introduce our sponsor for today, and that is TD Bank. This is the 7th year in a row we've been able to count on our friends at TD Bank, and we appreciate it. They've been very active in the Chamber of Commerce in many ways, very involved with our programs and events, and they're a good, strong partner of the Chamber of Commerce. So at this time, I'd like to ask my friend, Maureen Hanley-Beligo, to come forward. She is the Senior Vice President for all of Fairfield County for TD Bank, so I'd like her to talk to us a little bit about TD Bank and introduce our mayor for us.
I'm pleased to be here this afternoon representing TD Bank, America's most convenient bank. TD is committed to serving the businesses and the community in all the markets that we serve. In the city of Stamford, we're very proud to serve many businesses, as well as support critical services provided by not-for-profits in the city, such as the food kitchen, housing for the homeless, reading programs, and business outreach services, and the Mayor's Youth Employment Program, which we're pleased to support again this year, along with many of the businesses in this room. It has been our honor to support the Chamber and introduce the Mayor of the City of Stamford for the past 7 years. But before I do that, first I have to give a shout out to my alma mater, UConn. Go UConn! And I'm sure the Mayor will watch me get ladies tonight play. So without further delay, please welcome Mayor David Martin for his first State of the City address.
Well, I too am excited to be here. Much anticipation because I have no idea what I'm going to say today. There are some slides that are prepared for me, and hopefully what I say will fit with the slide. It is a great pleasure to be here and to share my State of the City report with you and the Stamford community. I want to thank Jack, and I want to thank Chet and the rest of the Chamber for inviting me here today and putting this event and putting up with me a few times, I might add. This is my first State of the City address, and by the time we get to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year, we're going to have this thing perfected. I was going to start with just one thing. I think many of you know that I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and in fact, my school bus went right past the birthplace of Harry Truman, and he is one of my heroes. There's a quote there that he gave: "Being a president is like riding a tiger. You have to keep on riding or be swallowed." And although I'm certainly not the president, I can definitely relate to that. The first few months have been essential in forming the foundation for the years to come. And we're trying to get a handle on where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Before I say anything else, I would tell you that part of that first few months is in putting together what I think is an extraordinarily talented team of people that are helping me. Any success that we have is due to them more than me, and so I would appreciate it if they would stand. First of all, Michael Pollard, who's standing sitting right here. so many things. We go back and forth, but I got to tell you, this new position which we created, one of the very few positions we created, extraordinarily valuable. It should have been done in Stamford long ago. Sitting over there, we have a whole table of people who are part of the team, and I'm sure I'm going to leave a name out here or there. But we have Cindy Grafstein, who is a special assistant manager. You guys are going to have to stand. Now, you can hold your applause, unless you just can't contain yourself. But Cindy, if you would stand up. She handles a lot of education issues. I think, as many of you know, I'm taking a significant interest in the education we have in our community, and she is helping with that. We have Ann Fountain, our Director of Health. She's an old hand at this, and that's why we're so healthy. Ernie Ojira, who is our Director of Operations. Ernie? You've got a bottle from Plains. He's the man. Mike Handler, who is as conservative as they come. So if I'm asking you to spend a lot of money in a tax increase, you should know that I've got a finance guy that doesn't want to spend a nickel on anything. Ted Jankowski, who is the Director of Public Health and Safety. And with him, in addition to the Director of Health, we have Chief Fontenot, Assistant Chief Shaw, Chief Brown, who's taken over leadership in the fire department, Kathy Emmett, who is our Director of Law, and we pulled Robin Stein out of retirement to be our interim Director of And last but not least, the guy over here operating the machine is Tom Beck, and he joins us as well as our Director of Communications. So, I got to tell you, they are working hard, with some of them actually sleeping at the government center during storms, and working late into the evening and on weekends, and they're just a terrific team. Any event, let's get on with the show. I am proud to report to you that the state of our city is strong, and I believe that it is growing stronger every day. Our city is one that we all take pride in, we should take pride in, and one that I believe is on a path for continued success in the years to come. In fact, we were just recognized during the last month or two as being the best place to live in Connecticut, which you may have seen covered in the Advocate a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, Chad, I didn't see it in your side, but maybe that's because you're from Norwalk. I don't I guess I'm in trouble with the media already. We were recognized for many reasons, and among them were the quality of our school system. The median income that we have in our town, the high education levels, and the many amenities that we have in Stamford and the variety of activities. And we are certainly recognized as the safest city in New England. We have here, I think many people know that I'm more of a numbers-driven guy. Here is the actual crime rate that's occurred in Stamford over the past 10 years or more. And as you can see, we had a steady decline, and it continues to decline with the preliminary numbers reported for 2013. We continue to be the safest city in New England. And to give you a perspective, that number there that we had in 2012 and 2013 is less than half the crime rate of any other city in the state of Connecticut of 100,000 more. We are doing a fabulous job, and as I mentioned before, some fun. In fact, what's our next slide? We just swore in 3 new police officers, so we're making progress there. Our police force is a little bit smaller than it was many years back, but we are adding police officers. And quite frankly, if you've been driving around Stamford, I urge you to be careful with your aggressive driving. You've probably seen, he's out there with cars to go after people who are speeding, aggressive drivers, distracted drivers. You're writing more of those tickets because those things lead to accidents. So if you see him out there, just be mindful. Our goal is not to issue more tickets. Our goal is to have safer streets. Thank you, Chief. People are coming to Stamford because it's a great place to live. And I walk through the downtown, and I see young people, families, and seniors in our restaurants enjoying live music, taking advantage of our shows, our movies, and our shoppings. And we work here with a growing and vibrant business community ranging from Fortune 500 companies to small business startups. We're watching the transformation of our South End with new developments dotting our skyline and new residents moving in. And we remain committed to our parks and our shoreline, whether it's the success of Mill River or a new playground that's now being constructed at West Beach. We're seeing our students achieve success in our public schools and being recognized for that progress. Put simply, Stamford is the place to be if you're going to live in New England and certainly the state of Connecticut. I hope today I will address a number of the issues and successes and some of the initiatives that I have in our administration. And I'm beginning by discussing a little bit about my approach to the management of City Hall. I am on a mission to transform City Hall, to make it more effective in servicing the citizens and the business community as well, at the same time holding costs down. But like any transformation, it requires a certain amount of investment. Since taking office, I have made a point of communicating the importance of moving us forward towards better planning and management of our operations and better use of our data to help us benchmark and measure our progress along the way. We've increased our transparency to city government, and there is more to come. It is reinstituted Mayor's Night In and Mayor's Night Out. We now have an open door policy. Sometimes we're surprised that we might show up on the 10th floor, but it's all in the better good. We've unlocked the doors in the government center so people can now more freely transverse through that. We have better communication through our citizens with traditional and online media. I think many of you know we had a Google Hangout. It was focused on our situation with potholes after the worst year we've had for storms in I think 10 years, and which led into the pothole week, which was essentially we got many more potholes reported. If you have a problem with a pothole, Ernie or Jira is over there. Actually, I learned something about potholes, and it's a little bit off the theme here, but during the winter, we go out and put a temporary patch in. And sometimes it's so temporary that cars driving by will pull that patch right back out of the hole. We have to come back later and fill that patch again once we've had an opportunity to check with utility lines, because we're going to cut and we just don't throw asphalt in it, we make a cut around that hole, but we can't do that until we make certain that we're not cutting through a gas line or an electric line. I know CL&P is here, I hope you're glad that we're not cutting the line in half. And then we fill it with hot asphalt. And so that's going to be starting very soon, but we've also expanded our paving program. In the budget for next year, we have $3 million for paving. That's about what we've spent on paving in the last 2 years, but we are taking forward an additional $2 million beyond what we've already done this year to be started in this spring. And so we're going to increase the paving program by actually over 60% over what it was last year. That's one of the gifts and curses of the snow. We still have a long way to go. And meanwhile, we're trying to do a better job of coordinating. I know that we are now mapping out where we expect CL&P, the natural gas company, to be cutting into our lines. We know that some of the WPCA projects, we know where they're going to be cutting into our streets, And so we're going to be paving where we think that pavement's going to last, as opposed to a place that might be disrupted in the immediate future. We're trying to get more for the money we're investing in the city of Stamford. We also, as you well know, had a huge and understandable uproar over the property tax after the revaluation last year. I made a commitment to have a more open process with the assessment appeals. We changed that process. It was reported in the paper. And in fact, I don't remember, Mr. Handler, how many total appeals are we now hearing? 238. So we had a big increase in appeals, and one of the things that I said is, although I'm not trying to say whether we're going to win appeals or not, we're trying to change that process so people have a better understanding of what's involved and how they can win. Speaking to the budget itself, there have been There's been a lot of efforts to cut the budget, cut the budget, cut the budget. Unfortunately, they have been unable to achieve any long-term savings. The focus has always been entirely around what can we do this year to cut the budget, and in the process, it's basically undermined our ability to plan and manage for the future, and the core structural costs continue to rise. And you can see that over the past 4 years, although I don't have a chart in it, as you actually watch the increases from the city of Stamford without any real increase in services, but nonetheless an ever-increasing march of costs, largely related to unfunded liabilities, both with pension and with health care, that continue to mount. And put simply, the baby boomer generation, for which we owe many of those unfunded liabilities, is starting to retire. And as they retire, those unfunded liabilities are coming true. I am very unhappy to report that I propose a 4.9% tax increase. I think we all know that it's going to end up being below that. But inside that tax increase is the greatest commitment to filling that unfunded liability, if you will, paying down some old credit cards that has ever been done in this city before. That's what I feel is necessary to deal with our obligations, and at the same time, we created a few positions to help our capacity to plan for the future. In addition to our contributions to the OPEB, other post-employment benefits, which is primarily health care for retirees and pensions, we have put in a time and attendance manager to better regulate our city employee time and attendance. And we are proposing a transportation planner as part of a longer-term planning, a parks supervisor to lead our parks and recreation, not just maintain what we have, a land use inspector with related to zoning, and a social services coordinator. I think you all well are aware of some of the challenges we've had with our social services agencies. And interestingly enough, there is no one in the government center who has a direct responsibility to coordinate or communicate with the many social service agencies that exist in the city. I've also made a point about being proactive in pursuing resources from both the state and federal governments and better collaborating with our local officials. I've met several times with state commissioners, including the Commissioner of Education, the Commissioner of Deed, the Office of Policy Management. I've met with the governor several times about projects and opportunities in Stamford. We have also been aggressive in partnering with and lobbying with our state and communicating our needs as a city. We have a close relationship with our state legislators, and they have been providing support for our priorities. As part of that, I have testified in Hartford about the governor's budget, visited Washington, D.C., and met with FEMA, EPA, the Department of Transportation, and other agencies to lobby for additional dollars, and very importantly, secured the release of $2 million from FEMA for this city, which is probably critical for us in being able to make this year's budget. I am proud that we are going to make the budget this year, and despite that increased cost that came from all that snow and storm and everything else, which cost us well over $1 million. And we have been monitoring the Metro North issues. And this week, is it this week? This week, I'm meeting with President Giuliani, communicating concerns that we all have about the long-term future of Metro North and our transportation center. Put simply, the single most important issue in my mind for the future is not the one that rolls off the lips every day of everyone. It is, what is the future of Metro North? Is that going to be reliable service, safe service? Can we get the commute time down to 125th or down to Grand Central in a half hour? Can we get a half hour to Bridgeport? The future of that line is more important to the city of Stamford and our economic prosperity than any other single issue, and I'm committed to pushing in the direction that will ensure both state and federal funding and focus to fix the issues that are there and improve the planning for the future. I have also been regularly attending the Board of Reps and Board of Finance meetings, and as I think many of you know, have taken an active role in the Board of Education. Board of Education itself is the lifeblood of any community that is growing, and we are committed to preparing each and every student for higher education and success after graduation. We have one of the most diverse populations in our state, and I actually believe it is the most diverse. Our diversity is one of our biggest assets and one of the things that I am most proud of. But it is also an issue that requires a very demanding education delivery system because it's clearly a very complex set of problems that are delivered in diverse communities. That homogeneous communities, whether they be rich or poor, do not face the same challenges. As mayor, I've made a commitment to our public schools, and since taking office have been in constant communication with Dr. Hamilton and officials of the Board of Education. I have attended Board of Education meetings, and we have been dedicated to strengthening our district and working to ensure that every child receives a quality education. And how well are we doing? Well, first of all, put simply, we're doing well. In the last few years, the number of students that are participating in taking AP courses has climbed from 38% in 2009 to 46% for the class of 2013. We have an outstanding student body at West Hill and at Stamford High, and in fact, I believe this morning it was reported that West Hill High is considered one of the top high schools in the country, and we should take great pride in that. 87% of our students are going on to pursue higher education. That is much higher than the state average. And in 2013, they went to schools such as Yale, MIT, Duke, Cornell, Georgetown, NYU, and Brown, some of the most competitive schools in the country. We're making strides with our achievement gap. In the last few years in reading, you can see how the scores are steadily increasing. There's a big gap to close, but the scores are generally closing, and we're getting improvements on reading and on math. I'm proud that we are going to be reopening Wright Tech this fall, thanks to the leadership of our governor and the state legislators. And we need to share our success. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of negative things to say. Quite frankly, I'm very proud of the public schools. We should be behind them. They're part of a strong community. And doing some amazing things and providing an enriching experience for our students. If you want, I invite you to go see a school. And you'll see some great things. But you'll also see some of the challenges in terms of student enrollment and the challenging number of kids, because unlike most of the other schools in the state, our school population is increasing in Stamford, which has caused me, as many of you know, to pursue the possibility of getting a property to help provide another school in our elementary levels. But of course, it doesn't end at high school. Of course, we have the preschool, CLC, which is doing a fabulous job and is looking forward to fixing up some of their facilities this year with some money from the city, as well as expanding the number of preschool slots that are supported by the state. But at the other end of the spectrum, we have success with Sacred Heart, Stamford's Graduate Center, which has moved into our tower. And I'm very happy that here, in fact, they are actually helping us with some of the issues that we are addressing in the Government Center regarding organization and several departments, so I thank them. And finally, UConn Stamford is growing. If you ask me what is the single best thing about the future that people don't fully appreciate, is the commitment the state has made to UConn Stamford. And yes, I understand that we're all happy about the basketball team, and we're even happier tonight after we win a second game. But this, again, the long-term future is moving ahead. I've met with the president of UConn, Susan Hurst. They are fully committed, and we're here to try to get that project in the ground. I know Sharon White, I believe, is here someplace. Sharon, if there's a glitch in this process, I'm coming to look at it for you. But I also wanted to say, Maureen, who introduced me, she says, you better check this out, Sharon. She says that she was the first graduate from the UConn campus here in Stamford. And at the time, it was so unusual that people up in stores were a little bit confused about that. But if you turn to page 3 on the Advocate today, you will see that there's a growing number of students that are actually coming to Stamford for graduation. And I said, if you can get by that first page, which is all about their success last night at the basketball game. So congratulations to you, and to all of us for what UConn is doing in terms of doubling its population over the next 5 years and adding student housing. So Well, let's talk about economic strength and development for a few minutes. Our economy continues to lead, as you said earlier, Chet, we continue to lead our state, and we are the envy of other cities in Connecticut and the tri-state region. We are making our budgets. I was down at a conference of mayors in Washington, D.C. You don't know how many of them behind the scenes were talking about how they are hiding their deficits. And I'm not one to do that. Unfortunately, we are moving in the right direction. Our local economy is climbing out of the recession and doing so at a faster rate than other cities in Connecticut. Our city's financial integrity remains strong. We retained our AAA bond rating with the Standard & Poor's. Some people would say, oh gee, we've had this for a few years. What you may not realize, the Standard & Poor's changed its criteria this year. It's making it harder for us to retain our rating, but nonetheless, we did that. That's part of our ongoing conservative and responsible financial policies. And I think they like the new mayor, but maybe that's just me. In any event, we continue to grow. We are currently the third largest city in the state with over 125,000 residents in the evening. Quite simply, it isn't just that we have a growing population, growing as fast as any other city in Connecticut, but you should also know that we have the highest payroll of any city in the state of Connecticut, well past New Haven and Bridgeport, which are larger cities from a population standpoint. We actually have the highest payroll. It is unfortunate that we don't get any of that income tax or any of the sales tax that's generated back to help our operations in this city, but nonetheless, I think we can take great pride in that. We continue to have a strong labor force and a decreasing unemployment rate. Our rates here, these are not seasonally adjusted, but as you can see, since the recession, Stamford has had an unemployment rate that is better than Connecticut and better than the national average. In February, or year-to-date, I should say, we are at 6.4%. I believe it was actually 6.2, so my notes say 6.4, but I thought it was 6.2, which is down from 7.4 in 2009 and below the current average, and it is below what it was 1 year ago at this time. The uptick here is a little bit change in the overall rates, but it's also the seasonal adjusting problem. We continue to be the largest financial district in the New York metro area outside of New York City, home to 4 Fortune 500 companies and 9 Fortune 1000 companies. Deloitte is expanding their operations and moving into the to the financial center on Tresor Boulevard. Pitney Bowes is keeping its headquarters here at 2001 Summer Street. Novatex will be opening its headquarters here in Stamford tomorrow in First Stamford Place. Starwoods we met with yesterday. They are growing their operations, but it's not just big business that is important to economic success, but also small business, and new businesses are coming here to Stamford. The opening of fast signs on Atlantic Street, and the new restaurants that are popping up that we see in the downtown area as well as the South End. Actually, I think this weekend I'm going to be participating as a judge in Startup Weekend, which is sponsored by the Stamford Innovation Center. During the weekend, individuals will pitch their ideas for startups, and so come on down to the Old Town Hall. I don't know, is that Saturday or is that Sunday? Sunday. I don't know what my calendar is. They tell me it shows up. I'm running all the time. But these are just some of the highlights of what we're doing. On the housing side, Stamford has continued its expansion with a number of new developments. We have the housing developments with Trinity at Park Square West, which has 300 units. Summer House on Lower Summer, which is 222 units. We have a new proposal at Washington Boulevard and Main Street. And where is Randy Salvatore? Randy? Stand up a second. So if you like this thing, tell them, and if you don't, tell them. Randy, thank you. I know a number of these projects are yours. Thank you for what you contribute. The Verano, did I pronounce that right, on Summer Street, which is 58 units. That's also one of Randy's projects. The Resident Inn by the Marriott, 125. Is John DeMint here, or anyone else from Seaboard Properties? I think he was. I spoke to him at the event at the Stamford Center for the Arts this last Friday. I hope you all had a chance to attend. It was another spectacular evening. Two shows for an event. Just fabulous. But in any event, right next door, the Residence Inn being constructed by Seaboard Properties. We have the modern 163 Franklin Street, which is 52 units, which opened last summer. And it's 75 Tresser Boulevard, 344 units. I know some people don't like the looks of this, but maybe as they keep working on it, it'll look more like a picture than what it is out there on the street. That's to name a few. Unfortunately, I couldn't work in a picture of Chelsea Piers, but quite frankly, where's Steve Wise? He's around here too. Steve, why don't you, just for a second. So Steve Wise, and I don't even remember the name of the consortium, but basically Chelsea Piers is expanding both below grade and above grade. The Chelsea Piers project itself is in the process of expansion, and NBC Studios is up above them expanding. And so that's been proven to be a success, and it is growing. And of course, everyone who comes to Stamford makes note of the Harbor Point developments. 1,800 units are now open or under construction, and I believe the two most recently opened buildings are 111 Harbor Point and the Infinity Building. And everybody knows who John Freeman is. He gets to stand and take the congratulations or the arrows, depending on how you feel, from Carl. But nonetheless, BLT is transforming our South End, and everyone is proud of what we've been able to do. It isn't just in the downtown and South End. There are also projects going on in Glenbrook and Springdale at 467 Glenbrook Road. There are 17 units that I believe is just about to start. 947 Hope Street, there are 13 units that are coming in. And for those of you who live up that way, there's a project underway with the state funds to basically redo Hope Street and the sidewalks. It's looking fabulous. I don't know the completion date, but we'll go in there. Let's go to a different part of town. How about Stamford Hospital? The expansion is moving along in construction with the help from our housing authority. I don't see Ben here. I'll have to get after him for not showing up. But for all the stuff they're doing, and they are having a celebration May 14th for topping off of one of their buildings right now. I think they just sent that out yesterday. And the Mill River, which I have been proud to be a long-term supporter, is taking form, and it's really becoming a gem in our downtown. I believe that they have their annual celebration on May 1st, and I will be making an announcement there about progress that's been happening in Mill River. I believe that both the carousel and the fountain and skating rink are going to start construction in Q3 of this year. So it's another symbol of how we're doing so well. Turning to the downtown area, this has been the core of it, the revitalization of the downtown and the leadership that has changed much of our downtown. Sandy, I know you're there, but you can't stand just yet. Clearly, one of our greatest assets is the downtown and the people that work and live in the downtown. I understand that this is, of course, our balloon parade. We all know about the balloon parade. But furthermore, we also have our Alive at 5 program that has brought so much energy to downtown. And part of the reason the apartments and the housing project are having such success is because what the downtown has done to create energy for a younger population. And I believe that they're not quite ready to announce their whole summer program. But Sandy, we've got Blues Travelers, Sugar Ray, and Smash Mouth. Now, I can't sing any tunes, but Sandy, could you stand up and sing a tune from Smash Mouth? What date are they playing?
July 24th. The concert series starts on July 10th, Thursday night. Smash Mouth and Company will be there on July 24th. And everybody is invited.
I'm coming.
My guest.
I'm coming. Sandy has, I love Blues Travelers. I'm sure I would recognize Smash Mouth, but she has an even bigger lineup that she's not yet able to release, so stay tuned because there's more. And
Finally, if you were trying to get to this great event and you live in the South End, how do you get there? Well, you got to ride a new trial. And we're trying to see that. There's one city. And so I thank Harbor Point and DLT for funding this project. I believe we have Carl and Sandy there, as well as John and myself, and somebody else snuck into the picture. But quite frankly, it's a positive thing, and people are, is it Tom Mills? Yeah. We're making great strides, guys. It's an honor to be serving you as your mayor, and to have the opportunity to work with you and move our city forward. I've asked for a number of people to stand, and I'm sure I've left out 150 more. The reality isn't the mayor that makes us a great city and a great future. It's the people that are sitting here in this room today. And I thank you for what you've contributed in the past and what I'm going to ask you, what I know you're going to contribute in the future. As I've stated, and we all know, Stamford is a great city with tremendous diversity of people, culture, neighborhoods. We have a vital corporate community, our schools, our municipal workers who contribute so much to our success, and the natural beauty which ranges from the beauty of the Sound to the forests of North Stamford. And yes, we have a number of challenges, but I tell you that Stamford's future is fundamentally a bright one. I look forward to returning next year, reporting what I know will be a successful year, thanks to the contributions that you make. Thank you very much. Take a few questions, provided you don't want any answers. Yes, sir. Shortly after I took office, we reached out to Bridgewater and basically said that we would like you to come to Stamford. We know we have a number of land use issues that we need to resolve, but we would like you to come to Stamford. We want to understand the conditions that you would require. Bridgewater remains very interested in Stamford and exclusively in 14-acre site. I do not want to misconstrue anything. Bridgewater has their own internal decisions to make before they're ready to commit. There was recently a lawsuit that I think complicates the situation. It is an understandable lawsuit, but there's a lawsuit that's been reported that is not that the city of Stamford is not a party to. But I still remain hopeful. We do want Bridgewater. I think it will help cement our financial services industry. We can talk about trickle down, and I think we like the word multiplier effect in economics rather than trickle down. I like that multiplier effect. I think it will cement our financial services future here. So that is something that we're prepared to move forward with, but I recognize there are a number of complications, and quite frankly, Bridgewater has to make internal decisions about which way they want to go, which they have not yet made. Next, let's talk about something easier. Yes, sir.
I don't think it's easy, but you mentioned property tax appeal process. Because you have several hundred appeals out there now. My questions haven't been through it a couple of times, and knowing the cost that you want to go through. What do you see happening through that process to the benefit of the fairness of the citizen, including not finding necessary to maintain households and go to Britain for final appeal? Of course, that's a dissuader to the citizens. What do you envision to make that more equitable?
I think I almost heard most of the question, so I'm going to try to repeat the question back. I may not have heard every bit. Basically, the question was, what are the plans to change the appeal process for tax appeals, because it is a very difficult process to understand for homeowners, and short of getting an attorney, which is often impractical or uneconomic. Is that a fair?
And having to go to New Britain, Connecticut for final appeal.
And go to New Britain for final appeal. I do not have a final answer for that. We took our first step this year by publishing on the website exactly how the appeal process works. We had, for the first time, the facts frequently answered questions. I would like it to be richer than it was before. We took those first steps. And I have communicated that while the assessor normally takes the position of an adversary from the homeowner, we have started talking out loud about how is it that a homeowner gets a fair understanding of the process and what's required. Part of those facts were about if these are the types of things which win appeals. And so we're moving in that direction. I cannot promise you a final resolution, as we have many issues to move forward on that involve making our government more responsive to the needs and rights of its citizens. This was a step that we could do in a short period of time. And we'll get through this tax year, and then in the next tax year, I'm going to revisit this particular issue. I don't have a specific answer, except that I share your concern. Yes. Eileen Hafey, who is one of our representatives on the Board of Representatives. Eileen, thank you.
I love the presentation. It's very impressive. Really appreciate the scenes and the testimonies are happening. But let's give some thought just for a moment to those people who retire and leave their incomes and those who establish their careers who are concerned about taxes. Do you have any ideas going forward on that?
One of the things that was discussed, basically the question is about retirees who live on fixed income and the challenges to pay increasing property taxes. I don't mean this to sound heartless. It is not meant to be heartless. But 20 years ago, the price of a gallon of gasoline was less than 99 cents. Inflation is a fact of life, and the idea that we are going to cut our taxes in the short term and just to get by another year is not the approach that I recommend. I basically want to cut our costs in the long run and get effectiveness up. Now, there are some possibilities that I am willing to investigate once I clear out a pile of issues that reach up to the ceiling. But one of them involves some sort of limitation on tax increases to seniors, and not saying it's going to be flat or zero, but perhaps no greater than the rate of inflation as not a tax abatement, but a tax, I want to call it tax deferment. A tax deferment program for seniors living in their own homes who are maybe 72 or older, and without regard to income. We will not increase your taxes more than the rate of inflation and defer the rest for at some time when the property is sold. It is a complex thing. We've got some other financial issues to address earlier. It is something that I definitely want to address before we reach a new reval, which will be about 4 years from now. Yes?
Just wondering what's going in the big hole and
What's going in the big hole? In fact, where is Mr. Rich? Because I know he's here, or he was. There he is. Tom. Tom Rich has taken on the burden for the whole city of Stamford to acquire that property, and he is now beginning his process. We were trying to get a picture of what it was that he envisions for that site. Tom, would you like to tell them what you're doing for the whole?
I'd be happy to, Mayor. How's everybody doing? Actually, just filed our zoning application for a project that has 672 apartments. And green space in the middle of the block, almost an acre and a half. There's a pavilion building in the middle, which will have a gym and other common elements for the project. In the corner of the Ray Rock and Dresser will be a very glassy, transparent entrance to the Cafe. And it's a beautiful design. The architect is called Concrete. They're from Amsterdam. And we're developing it in partnership with Iron State Development in Hoboken, New Jersey. Hopefully we'll be in the ground by the end of the year. But that's maybe up to the zoning board.
My message to the zoning board is simple, and that is that they have to use their judgment, but given the risk that you're taking in the project to fill something that so far has only been a benefit to the mosquitoes, I'm going to urge them to move quickly, be prepared, and move quickly so that you don't get held up with that investment. But that's what the plans are for the whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with you about the issues of transportation and how vital that is to the city and the state. Could you give us some sense of what the timetable is, on some of the things that are being talked about as far as the safety of, I know our employees take that to training quite frequently. What's the plan for tackling that under what time frame?
I heard about half of that.
Okay, what is the time frame for addressing some of the, particularly the safety issues which have come to the fore in the last, several months? We have a lot of employees that take those trains, and, so I was wondering, as you have talked to the state officials, the federal officials, is there a time frame for addressing them?
I'm actually talking with the new president of Metro North this Friday. So Thursday, it's moved up. Because of the urgency, we moved it up from Friday to Thursday. So we're meeting with the president of Metro North on Thursday. This is a topic of discussion. I cannot tell you the time frame at present. What I can tell you is that I see the same symptom in Metro North that I see in our city and so many other communities, which is there's been incredible focus on the short run. Can I get the trains operating tomorrow on time? And have abandoned their longer-term needs, and we all know that there are billions of dollars needed for investment up and down that line. I can assure you that I'm very much in favor of that. You're absolutely right. You want to know, they talk about the 100-day plan, and I'm interested in not just the 100 days, but the 100 months, and what comes beyond that. The firms that I have met with, the major firms that I've met with, often that's one of their core questions, which is what's the future of Metro North? My statement to the Secretary of Transportation in Washington, D.C., as well as to Jim Redeker, is the focus on tax incentives to bring business to Stamford, while necessary and important, pales in comparison to the need to fix our transportation infrastructure to have reliable, safe, and fast transport up and down the busiest part of commuter rail in the country. And in Stamford, more dependent upon the success of Metro North than any other city in the country. So I can only tell you that it's my urgent importance, and I want to go beyond a 100-day plan. And that was my emphasis when I spoke to the Commuter Council about a month or so ago, which was reported in the paper, and to say it's not just about what we do tomorrow, but how are we going to change this infrastructure over the long term. Any more fun, tough issues that you want to talk about? Anybody get a handicap gate tonight? No? Mr. Jack? Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your remarks and for taking the time to be here. We appreciate that. Thank you, Maureen, again, and ZB Bank for their sponsorship. Hope everybody enjoyed the program. Have a great afternoon.